name of my lab is the Lab of Neurophysiology and Behavior. The lab is comprised of about probably close to 20 people, mostly graduate students and postdoctoral fellows. We study very basic aspects of the way the nervous system functions using a simple model system, which is the fruit fly Drosophila. The fly brain contains about 100,000 neurons compared to our 90 billion neurons. The complexity of most mammalian brains, including humans, is really almost intractable. But the fly brain is an amazingly rich kind of substrate to think about really how information flows, how connections change, how both the experience of an individual alter the way information flows, how evolutionary selection changes the way these paths within the nervous system are altered.
At the Ruta Lab, Vanessa and her team look in microscopic detail at these fascinating insects.
You can really understand their anatomy and function in incredible detail and think about their basic computational role within the nervous system and how they shape behavior. In the lab, we actually have about half a dozen different Drosophila species that we're working on, where we can use the same tools, the same sort of genetic tools that have been developed for Drosophila melanogaster. We can now translate these into these other species. I would say Drosophila is right now emerging as one of the most powerful systems, I would say, in neuroscience, partially just due to the fact that they have 100,000 neurons that have been largely mapped out.
But before Vanessa entered the world of neuroscience, she was pursuing a career in an unrelated field.
I left ballet when I was 21, so I pursued it all throughout high school and then for several years afterwards. I realized I was never going to be as successful as a ballet dancer as I wanted to be. I was fortunate that I ended up going to a high school for math and science, Stuyvesant High School. I had an amazing chemistry and biochemistry teacher there, Dr. Litwin, who was really, I thought, amazing at sort of conveying the beauty of like the periodic table. It's something that I enjoyed, that kind of logic and thinking about it when I was a student. And then, you know, when I was 21 and feeling quite frustrated with what my future might hold as a ballet dancer, I decided I would take a class for fun at Hunter College, and I decided the class I would take was chemistry, taught by Charles Michael Drain. I realized it was just so much fun, and somehow that was just incredibly rewarding. And I realized, well, maybe that is telling me something about my path for the future.
Vanessa shifted into the objective, data-driven world of science.
The ballet world is very subjective and very challenging. After I took that one class, I was like, I should probably make a transition. And I enrolled in Hunter full-time. I was a chemistry major. Mike Drain had just opened his lab and was looking for undergraduates to work there over the summer. And so I started working, doing kind of organic synthesis in his lab. I would say there are several things I would take away from my experience at Hunter College. It's an amazing school for opportunity. The student body is so diverse that even somebody who already tried to have a career and kind of had to fade out of it, which was where I was coming in, you know, who was slightly older, I would fit in perfectly well within that student body, that diverse student body. I met many colleagues who, you know, had other jobs, had to take care of their families. It was not an easy road for them to get an education there, and yet they were still making it work, and I think that was something I really had a strong imprint on me. I felt like also it was an extremely supportive environment, so if you were excited about science, there were so many people who are there to help mentor and guide me through the process of becoming a scientist, or giving me, you know, opportunities to work in their labs, or, you know, pointing me to other opportunities.
These opportunities included spending time with two Nobel Prize winners, Dr. Rod McKinnon and Richard Axel. She studied at the renowned Marine Biological Laboratory in Massachusetts and did postdoc work at Columbia University. In 2011, the Laboratory of Neurophysiology and Behavior opened here at Rockefeller University.
The things that have been really exciting to us to study in the lab, especially over the past few years, is thinking about how, for example, the internal state of the fly can change. If it's in the presence of a potential female mate, males become suddenly very excited and they will track visual stimuli that they would not be tracking before. So the response to, for example, a visual stimulus for the fly can be switched on and off in a way that is dependent on its arousal state. Similar to the way our own, internal motivational and emotional states can change the way we react to the world around us. The male flies, for example, perform a very elaborate courtship ritual to entice a female to copulate. And it consists of him basically pursuing the female for many minutes and singing to her by vibrating his wing to generate a courtship song. And so the thing about this behavior that has been super compelling to study is it's a beautiful feedback loop between male and female behavior, so you can start to really think about dynamic processing of the way sensory information can be kind of a reciprocally exchanged. Courtship behavior is like a beautiful kind of dynamic exchange of information between the male and the female in the same way a human conversation is.
Another major area of study, aside from the mating rituals of the fruit fly, is the tiny insect sense of smell.
The sense of smell for flies is one of the central modalities that they use to navigate their environment. It's a very important modality. If you have a fruit fly infestation you see on a single rotting fruit in your kitchen, many different fruit flies congregate, and how they get there is by using their sense of smell to navigate invisible olfactory plumes. The fact that they've propagated around the globe is part a testament to their ability to find appropriate food substrates, like food sources. Even though insects and humans and mammals use very different receptors for detecting odors, the basic neural logic of the way that information is processed within the brain is almost identical. It's a beautiful example of convergent evolution. There are so many beautiful parallels between the basic architecture and function of circuits, even in simple fruit flies, and mammals, and including humans, that it's easy to see the parallels.
Vanessa is now firmly embedded in the world of scientific research, a world removed but still connected to the Westbeth Artist Housing Complex, where she was raised by her artist parents.
My father, who passed away in 2016 when he was 98, but he painted, every day of my life. He was so devoted to his craft. When I think about the scientific process and I think about the influence that, the artistic environment I grew up in, really highlighted the parallels to me of how, artists and scientists really are very similar spirits. It's about kind of honing the craft where you really work at it every day, but it's also sort of this, as I said, this kind of artistic creativity and inspiration you get occasionally. I think my father's, especially my father, who was so kind of devoted and dedicated to his work, I think had a very strong influence on the type of person I am. I mean, I can see that.